Alright, so we're going to start out the first question here by completing a table for an equation x minus y equals 5, and then maybe we'll graph it. So if we come over here, I'm going to go ahead and create a table here. We'll just go ahead and make it an xy table, like so. You'll probably have some values on either side. I think I'd probably like to start with numbers like, say, 0. That would be a good one. And then 1 and 2. I'm just choosing those. We'll even do 3 actually. These will be chosen for you by the homework too. So what we want to do is put a 0 in for the x. So in the equation up here, we would have 0 minus y is equal to 5. And then we could just say, well, therefore y must be negative 5. Okay, so then he would have negative 5 in this particular spot. And we'd also have the point 0, comma, negative 5. Okay, and if I wanted to go ahead and graph that point, that would be somewhere down here. We would have 0, comma, negative 5 would be this point right about there. What I'm going to do now is put in a 1 here for the x. That's the next point down the line. This time we'll have to do a little bit more. We'll actually subtract 1 from both sides of the equation, and we'll get negative y is equal to 4, or therefore y is equal to negative 4. And that means we have a negative 4 in this part right here. And then we're going to repeat this process by putting a 2 in for y, and you'll find out that this is going to become a negative 3. And then when we put in a 3, we're going to find out that this becomes a negative 2. Then we have the point 0 minus 5, 1, negative 4. So if we come over here, 1 and negative 4, that would be right there. And then 2, negative 3 would be right here. And you can see the line that's being drawn out. Let's do one more. We'll do 3 and negative 2. And we're just going to continue in this fashion. And you can go ahead and graph the line that way. Okay, we have a new problem here. Find the x and y intercept of the equation and then graph the equation. Okay, we can see the equation here, 7x plus 22y equals minus 14. I've made an xy chart there. And to find the y-intercept, you put a 0 in for x. Now notice I said you find the y-intercept, you put a 0 in for x. So that means we're going to have 7 times 0, then plus 22y is equal to negative 14. That's 0, so we have 22y is equal to negative 14. And then we'll just divide both sides by 22 to get y is equal to, well, they're both divisible by 2, so that's going to be negative 7 over 11, which isn't the best number in the world, but that's what it is. Minus 7 divided by 11, so we have a fraction there for that answer. And then we'll do the same thing by putting a 0 in for the y to find the x-intercept. Okay, so we're going to come over here and we're going to put a 0 right in here for the y. That's going to find the x-intercept. So let me get that going. There we go. Put a 0 here for the y. And we'll go ahead and write the equation as 7x plus 22 times 0 is equal to negative 14. That's a 4. Okay, so that means that 7x is equal to negative 14 because we have 0 times anything is 0. That's an x, so we'll just divide 7 on both sides. So x is equal to negative 2. That's a little bit nicer of a number. Negative 2. Now we can graph that point. Negative 2, 0 is right there. 0 minus 7 over 11. Well, we probably want to find some other way of representing that, maybe with a decimal, or perhaps find another point. So negative 7 over 11, and you put it into a calculator, is approximately equal to negative 0.6. So we can go negative 0.6, which is a little bit more than a half, which would be roughly about right there as a little bit of an estimate. And then we can run a line through those 2 points there. Let me do that a little bit nicer. Okay, so your line would look something like that. All right, take a look at a very similar problem. Again, we're going to find the x-intercept and the y-intercept. So we're going to put a 0 in for the x to find the y-intercept, and then we'll put a 0 in for y to find the x-intercept. This equation doesn't look too bad to do these, so if we put a 0 in for x, we'll get 0 minus 7 is equal to 0, which is undefined, which tells me right here that this has no solution, and there is no y-intercept. Also, you can see here, we put a 0 in for x, we would have, 0 in for y, we'd have, there is no y to put it in. Do you see that? So there's no y to put it in, so we have x minus 7 is equal to 0, which means that x is going to always be equal to 7 when you put it on both sides. So basically x is equal to 7 is the equation, and what we can do there is just put a line, because every point will have x equal to 7 for 1 and x equal to 7 for 2, because y doesn't even exist in the equation. So this is going to be a vertical line through the point x equals 7, and we can graph that one like this. We can just put a vertical line right through the point where x is equal to positive 7. We have a problem here. It's asking us to find the slope between 2 points, 17.6 and 40,1. Find the slope. The slope formula is given by the y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. So in this particular case, our y number 2 would be 1, so we would have 1 minus y number 1, which is 6. 1 minus 6 divided by x number 2, which is 40, minus 17. Okay, do a little bit of math here. We're going to get, for the top up there, we're going to have 1 minus 6, which is negative 5. And then on the bottom, 40 minus 17, which is 23. So this is your slope right here. So we would say m equals to negative 5 divided by 23. Sorry for the mess there. Okay, in this problem, we're asked to do the same thing, find the slope. The problem this time is we're looking at fractions here. That's going to make it a little bit more difficult, but we'll still do it. So notice the equation for the slope m is y2 minus y1. So we have negative 3 over 5, that's y2, minus 3 over 10, divided by x2, which is 1 over 10, minus x1, which is negative 1/5. Now be careful, because we have a negative in the formula and a negative on there, so we're going to have a double negative down here. So we're going to have to do some work with fractions. Alright, so to work with this compound fraction here, I'm going to notice that 5, 10, 10, and 5 all have the common denominator of 10. So I'm going to multiply the top by 10 and the bottom by 10. That's multiplying the top and bottom by the same number. Here we have 5 goes into 10, 2 times negative 3 is equal to, well, on the top up here we're going to have negative 6. And then here the 10s cancel, minus 3. And on the bottom the 10s cancel, that's going to be 1. Negative minus a negative is positive, and 10 divided by 5 is 2. So at the moment we're looking at negative 9 divided by 3. That's a 3. So we end up with just negative 3. So there's your answer right there of negative 3. Still another question here about slope. This time they're asking to find slope. Okay, another question about slope. This time they just give us the, well, the picture or the graph. We can do a couple ways. Actually, we can get to point 2, 4. That would be our first point. We'll use that one, 2, 4. Doesn't matter which order you go. And then our second point would be minus 3, minus 4. We'll do minus 3, minus 4. And then we can just find the slope by saying, that's a negative 4, sorry, I didn't have my point. So negative 4 minus 4. So minus 4 minus 4 divided by negative 3 minus 2. And then we're going to get negative 8 divided by negative 5, which, by the way, is positive 8 over 5, and that would be our slope right there. Of course, we could have also come over here and counted and said that this went up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we could have just counted and got this too, but it's good to see that it works out both ways. Okay, once more we're looking for slope and graphing. This time, however, I'm given an equation. I could make a set of points, but I can also notice that the form y equals mx plus b, which this is not in right now over here, this is in a different form. But if we put it in this form where we solve for y, we can read the slope right off of the x coefficient. So let's go ahead and take this equation over here. So we have x plus 5y is equal to negative 5. And I'm going to subtract x from both sides. And I'm going to write it in this order. Positive 5y is equal to negative x minus 5. And then I'm going to divide everything by 5. Everything in the equation by 5 like this. That's not an s, that's a 5. That cancels and we get y is equal to negative 1 over 5 x. And then, of course, minus 5 divided by 5, which is 1. So here we know now that m is the coefficient on x was equal to negative 1 divided by 5. We also know that the y-intercept here, and I'll write that, that's what b is, the y-intercept, let me write that here, the y-int is the point 0, comma, negative 1. That's from this b right here. So we know this point 0, negative 1 is on the graph, that's right there. And we also know that the slope goes down 1 and over 5. So if we go down 1 and over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we would be right there. So we have 2 points. That's the point 0, comma, negative 1. Then from there, I just went down 1 and over 5. And then what we can do from there is just put a line through those 2 points. Like that right there. So we were able to find the slope by putting into the form y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope. And then we were able to graph it using a technique where we graph the y-intercept and then follow the slope. It says minus 1 over 5. That means down 1 and over positive 5. Continuing with the same idea, now we're supposed to graph a line that has a slope of 4 and goes through this point minus 6, negative 5. Well, minus 6 down 5 would be this point right here. We go down, back 6 and down 5, and I would get to this point right there. Let me go ahead and mark it there if I can. Okay, probably do that better with my pen. Let's see if I can get that marked in there like that. Okay, yeah, minus 6 comma negative 5 is right there. And then the slope m, let me say m is equal to 4. Of course, we need to go how much and how over, so we're going to rewrite this as 4 over 1. That means to go up 4 and over 1. So from that point, we'll go up from here. We'll go up 4, which would get me to right here, negative 1, and then over 1. Basically right there. Let me get that in there. So notice we went up 1, 2, 3, 4, and then over 1 because that's what the slope says. And then we just need to put a line through that. On there, we'll just put a line through it like that. Okay, for this set of, for these problems, we have to decide whether these two lines are parallel, perpendicular, or neither. And one thing we know about parallel lines, here we have that parallel lines have the same slope. So we can calculate these out to see whether or not we're going to have the same slope. And so we'll need to know what they are. Also, we also know that perpendicular lines, we have a negative reciprocal. In other words, if you have one slope of a over b, then the other slope will be negative b over a. And that will make them perpendicular. If these two conditions don't occur, then the answer is neither. So let's find the slope for the first one. So for the first equation, 4x plus 5y is equal to 6. I'm going to solve it by subtracting 4x from both sides. And I'm going to write this as 5y is equal to negative 4x plus 6. And then just divide everything by 5, divide everything by 5, divide everything by 5. And then we get the equation y is equal to negative 4 over 5 plus 6 over 5. X, don't forget, that's a 6 right there. That's an x. Okay, in any event, for the first one here, we have the equation where m is equal to negative 4 over 5. Okay, so what we want to do, that's a 4. There we go. Okay, let's take a look at the second equation here, which is 5x minus 4y is equal to 2. I'll subtract 5x from both sides. That's a 5, not an s there, and minus 5x over here. to get negative 4y is equal to negative 5x plus 2. Then divide everything by minus 4, by minus 4, and by minus 4. Let me make that look more like a 4. And we get y is equal to positive 5 over 4, and then minus 1 half. Don't forget the x, sorry, x. But more importantly here, m is equal to positive 5 over 4. So let me write that up here. M for the second equation is equal to positive 5 divided by 4. So those two numbers are clearly not the same, so parallel, well, that's out. But notice that for the perpendicular, we do have the negative reciprocal. If I take 5/4 and I flip it over, it would be 4 over 5 negative. So the answer right here, this one is definitely, I'm going to underline it right here, this one is perpendicular. Okay, one more time. We have two equations, so we're going to take a look at their slopes. The first one I have, I'll write it right here, 5x plus y is equal to 0. So here we have y is equal to negative 5x when we subtract 5x from both sides, and m is equal to negative 5. Okay, then what we can do is we can come over here and we can work with the second equation, which I'll write over here as 9x minus 4 is equal to 2y. I'm just going to turn that around and say 2y is equal to 9x minus 4. Just spun it around. And then divide by 2, divide by 2, and divide by 2 to get y is equal to 9 divided by 2, which I know is 4/5, but we'll leave, or 4.5, but we'll leave it as that. X minus 2, in which case m here is equal to 9 over 2. Okay, is that the same number for this one? No. Are they negative reciprocals in any way? No, they are not. So our answer for this one, these are just two plano lines, and they're neither perpendicular or parallel. Okay, here we're looking at making an equation of a line. Write it in slope-intercept form. That is y equals mx plus b. Notice here they give us a slope of 2, so we have y is equal to 2x. And notice that the y-intercept is negative 7. That's what b is, so minus 7. And this problem turned out to be not so bad at all because they gave us all the information we needed. We have the slope, m, and the y-intercept of negative 7. And we're done. Okay, this time we're going to write an equation here. We need to find the y-intercept, and I think you can see the y-intercept is 6, or 0, 6 is what we call the y-intercept here would be 0, 6. Or in other words, b is equal to 6. Those are kind of similar looking things. That's the b from y equals mx plus b. Let me write that y equals mx plus b here. That's what the 6 is, that b. The slope, if we look at it, it looks like it goes down 6 and over 3. So we're going to go down 6 and over 3, which, by the way, is negative 2. And that's what m equals to. And you can see it goes down 2 and over 1, down 2 and over 1. So we have our pieces here. Minus 2 goes there. Positive 6 goes here. Y is equal to negative 2, the slope, times x plus the y-intercept of 6. And there is your answer. For this next problem, we're going to write an equation in standard form of a line passing through these 2 points. First thing we want to do is find m, and notice that m is equal to negative 2. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is use the point-slope equation. The point-slope equation looks like this. Y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1, where x1 and y1 is any point. I'm going to use that point right there, so I'll have y is y minus 4. That's that y right there. I know they look like y's and 4. Sorry, that's a 4. Y minus 4 is equal to m, which we found earlier, minus 2, times x minus 1. That's this one right there. I could have used that point. I decided to use this point. It wouldn't matter. So if we clean this up, we have y minus 4 is equal to negative 2x and then plus 2 when we go ahead and distribute. And then we want to add 4 to both sides here, 4 plus 4. So you get y is equal to negative 2x plus 6. And then if we move that minus 2x back over, we have 2x plus y is equal to 6. And that's the standard form of the equation that's going through those 2 points. Standard form has the form where it's ax plus by is equal to c. and you can't have a leading negative, and I don't. If I did, I could just multiply it by -1. Oh, I didn't mean to put that mark there. So we'll get rid of that. All right, so this is the answer right here, 2x plus y equals 6, because it's in the right form for standard form. All right, so one more time, we have a similar, well, actually two problems here to look at. Write an equation in standard form of a line passing through this with an undefined slope. Well, if it has an undefined slope for this problem right here, then you know it's a vertical line. Undefined slopes are vertical lines, so it would be a line that was vertical like this. And all vertical lines, it's a line I'm making right there, not the number 1, it's a vertical line. And all vertical lines have the equation x equals to some number, and in this case, this is your only value that you have right here, so that equation is x equals to -2, all because we knew this was an undefined slope, and that is the answer to that problem right there. Same thing here, a slope of 0 is a horizontal line, so that line is going to go horizontal like this, and every horizontal line has the equation y is equal to some number b. And in this case, the only chance we have for y is that one, so the answer is y equals to -9/8. That's a 9. And that's the answer. So there you go. Circle this one and circle that one. We're able to do both of those quickly because of the given conditions, slope of 0 and undefined slope. Well, that should help you get through homework 1. Go ahead and give it a shot on My Math Lab, and good luck.